On the Newsmaker hotline right now, Catherine Herridge from your Fox News channel. Catherine is one of those meticulous reporters who always works to get it right and is very good at separating truth from fiction, wheat from the chaff. Catherine, as we look at Boston, a lot of confusion yesterday. Things seem to be clearing up today. What can you tell us?
Well, the information we have this morning is that the FBI, as well as the Boston Police Department, are very interested to speak to at least two individuals. They are not describing them as suspects, sort of persons of interest who may be connected to what happened on Monday. These images were pulled from the video and the still images that had been coming from the stores along Boylston Street, as well as from the public. Separately, the National Counterterrorism Center, or NCTC, this is the group that was set up after 9/11 to analyze threats, to share information, and to break down that stovepiping that led to the 9/11 attacks. They've been briefing a select number of lawmakers and indicated that based on the video and photos they'd received leading up to the moment of the explosions, that they'd had some, what was described to me as promising intelligence, Brian. So that's sort of where we are on potential people of interest in this case.
Do they characterize what that promising intelligence is in any way?
They did not, except to say that it was generating leads for them.
But wait, if I can just dig into this a little bit further, you're saying the promising intelligence, that this is coming from looking at the photographs and the videos that have been...
Correct, yeah, leading up to, and you know, when people think about security or surveillance cameras, they think about them as this great tool that may help prevent attacks, but really what they do is they're a good forensic tool. They don't prevent events. They may be a deterrence, but they're good for the after-the-fact, good old-fashioned investigations, because they're able to see who was in the area, who was passing through, leading up to, and the information we had is that there was at least one fairly clear image of an individual who was carrying a bag that may have been dropping it at the site of that second explosion. So again, this is like a forensic tool. It's an after-the-fact. It acts somewhat as a deterrence, but it certainly is not a powerful tool to prevent attacks.
But Catherine Herridge, I just want to be clear, the validation that there was very good data coming from those videos is coming from the team that specializes in international terror. Should we suggest from that
they look at domestic and international?
Oh, all right.
So I wouldn't draw conclusions. The NCTC is a group that probably many of your listeners are not that familiar with, but they do a lot of very good hard work. They were set up to try and prevent this stovepiping, this lack of sharing that was faulted for the 9/11 attacks. So it's like a central hub where they gather the threats, they assess them, and then they disseminate that information as they see fit.
All right. So, we had Dutch Ruppersberger on just a moment ago from the Intel Committee in the House, and he was sort of backing up what you're saying, that there are these images, they have these two people they'd like to talk to. But yesterday it seemed like there was a sort of an argument going on within the FBI about whether to release the images. I think it's a little late because they're out there, but whether they should or not, and have a big press conference last night. Ultimately, the press conference was canceled. Do you have any sense of what was going on in that discussion?
I can only offer what I would describe as my informed opinion here. One of the benefits of releasing pictures publicly is that you can help identify these individuals, and if they are suspicious, I'm not saying we know that for sure in this case, prevent them from leaving the area potentially. The downside to releasing pictures is that you then flood local law enforcement and federal law enforcement with tens of thousands of tips that they then have to try and run down and determine whether they're worth running down. So, in effect, when you release them, you almost kind of jam or clog your own system, right? You so overwhelm it. So in this case, it seems, for the time being, that they have images, they've elected not to release them. But what kind of caught my attention about that is that saying you have the images can really scare the you-know-what out of the individuals who are responsible. I don't know what the technical term is, right?
We get what you mean by you-know-what, yeah.
So you may have the effect of forcing these individuals who are maybe lying low to flee and to act, right? And that can be a good indicator to you of whether of a connection to the event. Mm-hmm. See, so
they might be they might be watching these guys for all we know, and then to suggest out there openly that they're people
Correct.
of interest,
mm-hmm.
they might then make their move, and that tells them there's a problem. Yeah,
tells them there's something more. It's another piece of evidence as they try and build a confirmatory picture of whether these people have some relevance.
You know, Catherine, I have witnessed firsthand your work, and I know you're a very cautious and meticulous reporter, and your reputation is exceptional in this area. So I'm not going to lay the sins of the news media at your feet, but there was all kinds of chaos yesterday, and and experience teaches me that when there's dissonance in the reporting, something was going on. Do you have any sense on what it was that was causing all that chaos yesterday?
I don't want to give your listeners speculation. Clearly, though, there were significant developments in this case yesterday. You can hypothesize that they were related to the images. I believe, based on my reporting, that the forensic end of this case, so in other words, the analysis of the bomb parts, which is taking place at the FBI lab in Quantico, Virginia, is moving at a very, very quick pace. There are reports this morning that the pressure cooker that contained one of the bombs, the manufacturer has been identified. And what happens in these cases is that you identify the manufacturer. They can help the government, help the FBI in this case, find like the lot number where it was shipped, potentially even where it was purchased. And that gives you a locator geographically. Also, the bags, the knapsack, what looks like a duffel bag, that was largely intact. And I'm told some of the key components are largely intact, and that's going to be very important for investigators to kind of, if you can imagine a map, they're plotting data points to understand where these items were purchased and maybe even a time frame. One new piece of information I had is that there's investigative value to the battery that was found with the bomb, and let me just take a moment to explain why.
It's an unusual battery.
It is an unusual battery, and in this particular case, the bomber or bombers, rather than going to a home hardware store or a drugstore and just buying, a standard pack of AA or AAA batteries, they went to the trouble of buying an item, because this battery is most typically seen in those radio-controlled toys. They bought an item, then they took the battery out of that item and put it into the bomb. So this is not a battery you typically buy off the shelf.
And that could be another trail that would isolate who this was, because I can go to where the thing was purchased.
Just on its face, it was an effort by the individual or individuals who made these bombs to create another layer right between them and the purchase.
Catherine Herridge, you are such a pro, and in times like this, it is really great to have a pro.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Catherine, thank you very much, and we hope to have you back again soon.
Okay, thanks.